2025. What a hectic and crazy year. All this doom and gloom and uncertainty. AI's taking all our jobs. Brett's visas got rejected. But in spite of all of this, there has been some recent very good news that came to our attention, and we thought we wanted to share a little bit of positivity out there into the community.
And that's right, the news comes from Juilliard. I don't know if you guys remember in 2021, do you remember there was like the protest going on? The students protesting against the school. The reason is because...
What was the protest about again?
Well, it was just because tuition went up. But the argument was kind of like, well, it's during COVID, lockdown, no one had jobs, people lost their jobs. And also, they're all staying home.
So it's like, why am I paying more when I'm getting Zoom violin lessons?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. I was like, I'm not even seeing my teacher in person.
Yeah, that's a pretty bad move.
It's a pretty bad move. And I can see Juilliard not like anticipating that. They just kind of went with the flow. It's like every year we raise tuition fees. But saying that though, moving on 4 years later, Juilliard has made a really big announcement here. They said they're going to be pledging $550 million to help student tuition. That is huge.
I mean, where do you even get the $550 million from?
Well, apparently it's like Juilliard's board of trustees. But
What is that?
I have no idea. Probably just a bunch of billionaires. Just, you know what? We need to support the arts.
Yeah?
Or maybe a bunch of people that just really want to support the arts and they know the right people in this. Putting the money in, right?
And this is huge because music education is not cheap.
It is not cheap at all. And it doesn't even start till like undergrad or graduate, right? It literally starts when you're young. Like your parents have to pay lessons every week.
Yes.
That's expensive.
Yeah. And I think that's maybe some things that non-musicians might not appreciate is the expenses that go into buying a quality instrument.
Oh, God.
That's like for those that struggle with that, it is a nightmare.
Yeah.
And I remember, when I was younger, just trying to find a good instrument that we could afford is so hard.
And I actually worked for like 2 years straight to buy my first decent bow.
Yeah.
I remember when I was like 19 years old.
Yeah, right. So like even that one stick
Yeah.
could cost,
I spent all my money on the stick.
how much was it? Do you remember?
It was 7,000 Australian dollars.
Woo! And that
That's a
was
lot of
10
money.
years ago.
Yeah, and I worked hard. We were busking all the
Yeah.
time. I was teaching every time. And I finally said, I was living with my parents, and I finally saved that money. I got that boat. And my bank account just went, whatever.
Yeah.
You guys will be surprised how many people actually have gotten investors to buy an instrument so they can play. Because they literally cannot afford a decent instrument.
Yeah.
So,
Anyway, going back to the topic, this initiative
yeah.
to help make music education more accessible, more affordable. I mean, I don't know. Did they say, are they trying to make it free? Because I know Curtis has a kind of...
Yeah, Curtis has been free since the inception, like 1920 something.
Yeah.
Which is, wow.
It's amazing, but also it's like, good luck trying to get in Curtis.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I think maybe Juilliard is just like, you know what, we need to step it up. Because Curtis is free and they're also getting a lot of the talent. Juilliard, we gotta also make sure we can cover most of this, tuition fees. To be fair, there's one small difference. Juilliard is in Philadelphia. Curtis is in Philadelphia and Juilliard is in New York. So the cost of living is actually quite different there.
True. So I can imagine the expense for the university. Actually, I don't know. Does the university own the real estate and all that? Because they have to pay rent.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Whoa, it'd be so expensive just to maintain it.
But I'm assuming that they own the property.
Yeah.
But definitely from the student side as well, right?
Yeah.
So students, on top of tuition fees, have to pay for living in New York.
That's
what
expensive.
I mean, that's one of the reasons we didn't go overseas, right? Like.
Oh yeah. Do you guys know how much it costs? Look, we got some numbers here because it's a natural course for. Like let's say us, like undergraduates, we finish and we want to go overseas to study, and most people do that. And actually, most people go to like Europe, Germany, and stuff because it's mostly free. It's cheaper. You pay like barely anything in comparison to some countries, right?
I remember Germany. So
yeah,
off tangent, but I remember Germany had a different issue, which is it was so free. a lot of students refuse to graduate.
Oh, yeah.
Staying there, and then
Oh,
some
yeah,
unis
so
started like introducing like a cut-off time.
Yeah.
Because they pay for everything.
Yeah, they pay for everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, Chloe was there now, I think.
Germany?
Yeah, I think so. She's studying in Germany now.
Wow.
I don't want to say I completely forgot. Maybe it was like Hans Eisler. Correct, I might be wrong, but we can check out with Chloe later. Look at this, look at this. $40,000
A year.
a year.
So what's that for 4 years? That's
3-4 years what?
what's 2160K
Woo!
USD.
Woo! Yeah, sorry, we're not from USA, so every time we see USD, we're like, oh! It's just higher.
Wow, okay.
And just not just that, look at it climb. Like 2016, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. Okay, 20 was COVID,
Yeah.
right? 21, 22, it still went up. And I can see that's kind of when the protest happens. Like, I'm not even, Zoom calls and stuff. Like, it doesn't cost that much.
Yeah.
We don't know Juilliard's side, but then there's a weird spike. I still don't know why there was a spike from 2023 to 2024 like that.
Oh wow.
So all the way up to today, 2025 is 58K USD roughly for 1 year. Yeah, I'm just trying to imagine both scenarios. Me going,
Yeah.
knowing there's a 200K debt in my face, because I know my parents would not be able to fork that much just for a degree like it. It's just too much.
Yeah.
It's like that's partially why we never went in the first place.
Yeah.
Not just this. It stacks up because this is tuition fees. Imagine you get to, there's another thing called the cost of attendance. So basically like, I believe this is like
no.
living fees. That's tuition fee, there's living fee. You
Yeah.
survive. Like I gotta buy my bubble tea, I gotta pay my rent, I gotta pay my utilities, water, electricity. Look at that, 85K a year.
That what? So 85K plus what's the tuition now? 58K.
No, this is total, this is total.
Oh, this is total
Yeah,
for
yeah,
all
yeah,
4
yeah,
years.
yeah, yeah, this is
Okay, I
total. Yeah,
thought
don't
it was
worry.
yearly. I was
I know,
like,
it's
oh wow.
crazy.
Okay, total 85K plus 58K per year,
Yeah.
which is, let's say if they did 4 years, that's almost 240K. 320K USD for your tuition. I mean, how much? Okay, so let's see how much the orchestra wage.
I think people, I don't know, New York Phil, I think they get paid pretty well. That's
Okay.
what I remember. New York Phil's like one of the highest.
But then again, it's New York Phil, right?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
Just because you go to Juilliard doesn't mean you necessarily get into New York.
Oh, you're trying to talk about
I'm
like.
trying to see if like people's salaries are raising to match. I don't know.
Okay, but yeah, so then that brings a different issue. It's more like, well, not everyone's gonna, let's be real, like not everyone's gonna get a job in an orchestra.
Yeah, I mean, I guess for Juilliard, obviously the caliber is quite good.
It's really high, yeah.
This isn't really just about Juilliard. This is talking about music education in general. So many people that went to uni in our grade finished and did nothing related to music
Yeah,
afterwards.
so true.
Right?
I
And
can
so-
kind of see why like Asian parents are just like, music is so risky. Maybe I'm hitting that age. It's like,
Yeah.
whoa, damn.
Would you? I mean, if you had a kid today, would you send them to Juilliard for 200K?
No? Get wrecked?
Practice harder and get
Yeah,
into Curtis for
yeah,
free.
yeah. If I have to pay, you're not good enough. I'm joking.
So I know it's being a bit long rant.
Yes,
but
anyway.
I think it's amazing that they're doing this
Yeah.
to help support the musicians so they can stress less and focus on being better musicians.
Yes.
Because let's be real, it's like it's hard to improve if you have like financial stresses in the back of your mind.
Or how the heck are you going to supposed to practice if you can't pay for your rent?
I mean, so one is like logistically, if you're having to work side jobs, that's already going to cut in.
Yeah.
But B, I would say psychologically, so much about being a good musician is removing tension.
Yeah.
Removing both psychological and physical tension. And if you are stressed, like if I don't win this competition, I'm gonna be in like life-crippling debt.
Yeah. That's
not gonna help you play
Yeah,
in a
so
more
bad.
loose, relaxed manner. Your Tchaikovsky's gonna sound constipated. on
Yeah,
stage.
Tchaikovsky is going to be Stresskovsky.
Yeah,
You're like,
exactly.
Help. Actually, that's pretty intense. You're right. So actually, we were pretty lucky, in a sense that I mean, we didn't go.
Yeah.
Not that we couldn't get in anyway, but like, like you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
we're pretty lucky that we could still stay with our parents
Yes.
and still have kind of, you know, still
Yeah, in
kind.
Australia, I mean, how much do we pay? Do you remember?
Oh, we pay like, I say we.
I think like $5,000 a year.
It was like $5,000, $6,000 a year.
Yeah.
Maybe max will be like 9,000, but I don't think it went over that.
Yeah.
And this is kind of Australian dollar, which is smaller.
Like 0.7.
Yeah, so like one
to
American
USD.
dollar USD is like 1 point something, 5 or something,
Yeah.
right? So it's, I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, I was trying to know smaller.
Yeah.
Back in our days, it was just easier. This was only 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So I just want to like say like, holy crap, thanks Juilliard for leading the way.
Yes.
Because everyone looks towards these schools to
Yes,
pave the
that's
way
true.
for classical music education. So that's overall it's a good thing. So the president said a good thing, which is literally what you just said. Financial barriers cannot be the determining factor in accessing Juilliard's transformative education. This campaign is all about matching extraordinary talent with extraordinary opportunity.
That is true. Yeah, well, I love that. I love that they're trying to match talent to opportunity because it's better for everyone as a whole too, right? Like, if the people that have that natural talent are given the opportunity to get better at that, then as a society, we're gonna get better or well-developed people in whatever field they're trying to
100%,
do,
yeah.
versus all this wasted potential
Yep.
because they came from a background that couldn't necessarily afford.
Yeah, which is unfair in that sense.
Which arguably most people can't afford New York living expenses and that.
Dude, yeah, I mean, holy heck.
Right?
Even if you tell me now,
Yeah.
Brett,
We couldn't have back then. No way.
I'll be stressed. I'll be even more stressed than I think my parents will be stressed.
Yeah, and then you now feel
This guilt.
guilt.
Yeah, and that's just what is really bad. Juilliard has steadily expanded tuition-free and fully funded programs, including dramas divisions, Master of Fine Arts and Acting,
Oh, okay.
artist diplomas in jazz. Sus.
Why do I not see classical music yet?
Music performance.
Does that include music?
I
Classical
don't know. Very vague.
Okay.
Opera studies.
Oh, why is jazz not music performance?
I don't know anyone. And string quartet studies. Okay, there's some.
That's very specific.
The Music Advancement Program (MAP), which serves students from 8 to 7 year in New York area. I agree with that.
That's cool.
That's like 100%. I think young kids because it's
Also tuition free.
yes,
That's amazing.
and the preparatory division. So it's like parents and kids at a young age, and it makes sense because you want to make sure they start at a young age, right? Because by the time they're 18, not saying it's too late. It's like people already invested money to making that happen. But at young age, some people just can't. Some people just literally can't afford a lesson. It's so expensive.
I feel like we could have been clearer in this video.
Yeah, sorry, guys. We just rambled on because we were just excited. I want to share this video.
Yeah.
Honestly, I saw this news. We saw this news like a couple of days ago. We just got to share it now.
If I had gotten that 500 million funding when I was 5 years old,
Yeah.
I would have made it to Juilliard.
Juilliard, you are 10 years to 15 years too late. Bro, why did you give it to us in Australia? The second news that we found out. Did you know a violin making school is going to stop accepting new students because they ran out of money? Or they're running out of money. They're losing money.
Damn, that's a shame. I think violin making is such a cool craft. I would really, really love to learn it, but there's not that many great places that teach it.
Yes.
And so you literally have to fly and go to these places to
Yep.
learn.
And I also say that it's hard to find a good violin restorer and maker,
Yes.
actually. So I feel like these schools are really important.
Yeah.
You know, it just takes a few years before we don't have any good violin makers anymore. And then slowly, if this is the beginning of it, the craft might slowly disappear. I mean, I struggle finding sometimes.
I can imagine on one hand, some people will be like, well, if not enough people want to learn it, then maybe we should stop wasting money on teaching this thing, right?
I can see that too.
But then I could argue, if society is structured purely for profit chasing, then art just becomes purely immediately what makes more money for the next quarter, for the next year.
Yeah, so there was a
that
point.
can have very disastrous consequences, right?
For sure. Can you imagine, like, just if the whole frame just changed, the art is just to purely make money?
Yeah, because it's like we all know, like humans, we're not the best at making. Let's start first of all, making decisions for long term, right?
Yeah.
It's hard to, when you have that beautiful bubble tea and burger in front of you, to think in 30 years time, this meal will add to my cholesterol and maybe be a health issue, right?
Yeah.
And so it's the same. Like, if everything is geared towards immediate profit, what's art and culture and history going to look like in 30 years time? Right?
Yeah.
So
And I also say arts, like one thing is like, I always thinking like, the arts is almost like the pride of the country as well. That's why a lot of countries actually, or governments, support their own orchestras because it's a representation, a symbol of this country's.
Yeah.
You kind of need it. You can't not have it.
Yeah, it's like there's a reason I don't know every city, but cities have their own orchestra to represent them. I know what I would do with $550 million now. Start
We just
two-set symphony orchestra.
Actually, we just answered our own
I
question.
think that would be sick.
100%.
And a festival.
Yes.
And then Ling Ling challenge recitals.
Actually,
where everyone's forced to play.
yeah.
Swap left and right hand.
Now. I just realized that we actually did a donation. We never talked about it. We actually donated $10,000 to Hong Kong University's music department last year. But obviously we don't have 550 million.
Especially now that we're unemployed.
Yeah, I kind of wish that we got some piece of that 550 million.
And our tour got cancelled.
Yeah, oh god.
So wrapping up, I think the idea of making opportunity for those that have the talent
100%.
and those that need it, that just makes sense to me. Investing in the education of people will always pay dividends. I'm a firm believer of that.
Yeah.
Always learning, always growing.
100%.
And so the flip side of that is enabling people to have access to this quality knowledge is huge.
Hopefully this is some piece of good news for you guys. And as always, go practice!